My name is Waverly J. Person, and my birth date is May 1st, 1926, and I was born in Lawrenceville area, Virginia.
You started off in a different world, didn't you?
Yes, indeed.
What was it like growing up there?
We were on a small farm, and it was pretty nice. We had plenty uh, things to eat and everything, but the discrimination was so bad that we didn't have a high school. My parents was really struggling to get us all an education, and the only way we got high school education was a Episcopalian group had a school there, and it was a boarding school, and you had to pay a tuition to go. There wasn't no high school for us. When we finished seventh grade, we were supposed to go back and work on the farm for the rest of our life. And I said, I'm not working on my farm, I'm getting away from here. I told my dad, he was quite disappointed. I said, I think I'm going to find something else to do. And then, long about that time, I got drafted into the Army. And I was in this boarding high school, and I had a semester to go, and they gave me a deferment, but they came back and said, well, we can't find enough people to pass the physical and exam, and also we have to revoke your we gave you to finish in May, but we're gonna have to revoke that. You gotta go. And so he said, well, we let you stay at home for Christmas. And so I went into the service on the 26th of December.
Where did they send you right away?
Alabama, Fort McClellan, Alabama.
What kind of training then? After did you?
Infantry,
Okay.
infantry. And I was there for about 18 weeks. Got advanced infantry training. And it was pretty tough because infantry, you walk everywhere. You don't ride anywhere. You walk or run. We got good training. I mean, the training was there. I didn't find any fault of them training because when you're training the infantry, we got the infantry training that the infantrymen got. That was for everybody, which was hell.
But you could protect yourself anyway.
Yeah, protect yourself, and you walked everywhere you went. See, you were the ones that was always on the ground pushing the enemy back. Walk, call them the doughboys.
You were interested in the 82nd Airborne.
Understand?
You were interested in the 82nd
I was
Airborne?
I wanted to get an airborne, and I passed all of the physical. The physical part of it was the toughest part of it for most of us. You had to be in very good condition to take that training. And I went and I passed all of the physical conditions that they put before me. I passed them, and I was ready to go. And then again, it came up and say, well, you passed and everything, but we can't let you go. We got to send you to the Pacific. I was supposed to go to the 93rd Division. At that time, it was one division in Europe, Italy, 92nd, and the 93rd was in the Pacific of black. They are all black. as you know, the military, all of the military was discriminated. And they had the 92nd Division in Italy were black, and 93rd in the Pacific was black, and all the rest of the divisions were white. And we weren't integrated at that time.
In the men who were in this 93rd Division, or in the 92nd as well, were they mostly draftees, or were they people?
They were drafted.
Draftees, and were they people who were mostly like you from the South, or did they come from all over?
All over, because they only had those two divisions. Any black that went in a fighting unit, they either, if he was in Europe, he was in the 92nd. If he was in the Pacific, he was in the 93rd. That's the only two divisions that they had. The division they had.
And there's been more from what I've read about the 92nd fighting in Italy. I haven't found as much about the 93rd.
No, you didn't, because they didn't talk about them. You don't know nothing about them, just so well to say, because no history was written about it. Most of what was known about the 93rd was we that lived to tell about it. I've done a lot of talking to the schools and whatnot, and explained to them what went on, and I told them that they would never probably get that because they was ashamed to write it. Oh, well, they knew about the 93rd, but they didn't say what the 93rd done much, we were just down there. They didn't say, but they fought. But they didn't, it's just not in the history. That's the way it went.
When we were preparing for the interview, we were trying to get a little bit of background, and it was very, very thin, the background that you can find online. Just a few dates and places that they went to, but not very much about
No.
what happened.
No. As far as they're concerned, they did nothing.
And for the most part, we hear about the idea that it was supposed to be a supply unit, and what would typically be the duties when you were going to, whether it was New Guinea or in the Philippines.
Oh, well, it was just getting a supply to the division people who were white.
It was basically just trucks and
Trucks
loading
and all that kind of thing. Truck drivers and laborers and all kinds of things. That's what you did. The thing of it is, they wanted to make sure that the white and the black stayed separate wherever we went. That's just the way it was. We couldn't do nothing. I mean, it's a little, we could say, it was a lot of black soldiers there, well educated and everything, well trained, but they just didn't have a chance. We were always pushed in the back on the battlefield, everywhere. I couldn't see why they would do that when we were all trying to fight the enemy. I had believed that if we were fighting together, that we could do a better job, but that wasn't for me to decide, and so that's the way it went. To tell you the truth, I really feel that had we been integrated all along, the war would have ended much quicker, because everywhere you went, you had to have a separate thing. White here, black there, white here, white there. And see, if you had been integrated, you didn't have to do all that. You just go in and you fight and go on. But I feel that if we had been integrated at the beginning, the war would have ended much earlier. That's my feeling. A lot of us wanted to, we wanted to go fight. We didn't want to stay back there with finishing those supplies. We wanted to go on the front line. In fact, when they had us back there in that little short security division, I'd have been better off of us. I was in the 93rd because I knew where the Japanese were, but I didn't know where the snipers were because we were mopping up up there. And the only time you know that someone's around when they start shooting. And we always had our weapon. When we were trained, whatever, I had a automatic rifle. That was my weapon. and I knew how to fire it. I mean, they taught us how to fire all of the units that were, the weapons that we were supposed to fire. That's one thing they did. We knew how to fire them because they trained us how to do that.
What about your officers? Did you have black officers?
Had a few, mostly white.
What was the attitude of the white officers towards the men in your unit and just in general being assigned to a black division?
It was good in a way. They treated us very, very nicely. See, they wasn't no hostile ways or nothing. They treated us great.
You mentioned that there were a few black officers. Where did they come from and how did they get in?
They came from out of the college ranks mostly. Some of them came out of the officers training school, but most of them came from institutions that had a military program, and they come out with second lieutenant ranks. But see, I didn't even get a chance to finish high school. They were killing so many of the people, young people. I was still 19 and was ready to go to combat. And they said, well, the mothers are really crying about killing so many young people, so we're going to have to keep you out for a while. And so they're going to put me in some kind of security group because of the age limit, and so that's what they did. Mopping up behind division, 33rd Division, I think it was, where they were going through in New Guinea, wiping out the Japanese. Well, New Guinea was really, really rugged. It was jungle, and the mosquito was big enough to pick you up and fly you. And we slept at night on the nets, and you could hear the mosquitoes hitting the nets like dive bombers when they were coming in. They had to do that to try to, with the medication, to keep from getting malaria. A lot of people wouldn't take the medication. They didn't like it because of the way they had to take it, and they would fake it. I took mine the whole time, and I didn't get malaria.
What kind of activity did you run into there against the Japanese?
Oh, the Japanese, it was jungle. And the Japanese are very, very good for camouflaging, and they could get themselves all decorated and everything and camouflage with the terrain. And the only way that you know that they were there is when they start shooting. You couldn't, it was so well camouflaged in the jungle like. And so you know when they start shooting.
Were you in a lot of firefights with them?
Not too many, but once in a while you get one that didn't want to give up. You know, they wanted to continue to fight. They just believe in fighting. They figured if they died for their country, that was the thing to do.
Well, that had to be a little unnerving. Because
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So did you just eventually defeat them there in New Guinea?
Yeah, well, we eventually defeated them and moved on up into the Philippines.
When you were in, did you go into the Philippines at all on any with the 93rd?
No. I didn't go back with with the 93rd. See, the 93rd was down in New Guinea, and that's where they went from there up. I didn't get into that. I never did get into the 93rd Division. I never did get old enough.
Oh, okay. So that explained it. Yeah. I was just reading the summary of things. I saw that the 93rd had gone, because I wasn't
No,
sure if you were.
no, the 93rd, they fought down there until and that's where they left. They didn't fight anywhere else. And tell you the truth, when the war ended in Europe, a lot of those people from the 92nd came and joined the 93rd and fought down there. I sensed something was not quite the same, but I didn't know what it was. And I told everybody, I said, there's something going on that they're not telling us about. I said, I don't know what it is. So then, after a few days, they said they were going to drop the atomic bomb. And when they dropped the atomic bomb, the war ended. But we were going into the southern Honshu, Wakayama, and they said, you're going to land just like you were when we were going to do the invasion, because these people down here, they don't know that the war is over. So we got to go in as which they were fighting. And see, at the time, again, we weren't fighting. We were supposed to be getting the material to the white soldiers, and the white soldiers were supposed to be fighting. And so we got ready to, they said, now, we're going in just like we were going before they dropped the bomb, because these people are down here, they're in these pillboxes and whatnot, and they don't know the war is over. It'll probably be a year or so before they know the war is over. We're going in to invade southern Honshu. We went to Manila, and we did a little training there, getting ready to board the ship. And we went to a place in the Philippines called Lingayen Gulf. And we went to a place there to board the ship. We boarded the ship in Lingayen Gulf, Philippines, and we had all kind of firepower. We had everything that you could name when we was on a convoy. And we couldn't travel very fast because we had to be moving, ducking the enemy, that kind of a thing. We were on the ship, and they had the white at the top and the black at the bottom on the bottom of the ship. And the captain that we had, I'm just a private. I just come out of basic training. So I raised my hand and I said to him, I think we all ought to get off of the ship when there come a time that we can get in one of these PT boats. We should get into that PT boat and land. Otherwise, all of us are going to get killed. I'm a private. I'm a private. And he said, who are you? I said, I'm Private Waverly Person. And he looked at me and kept on talking and everything. And I said, well, I know I'm going to get it. Because I just told him what I thought, because I could see that, I said to him, I said, these bullets don't know no color. I said, when they're shooting me, the bullets hit whoever they hit. I said, that ain't got nothing written on white and black. I told him just like that. And so he thought about it. So after we got through talking and all, and he called me, and I said, okay, here, I'll get chewed out and probably get court-martialed for insubordination. They call that insubordination, because I told him just what I thought. I might have been young, and I might have been black, but I wasn't dumb. I knew what those bullets would do for you. And I knew there wasn't no writing on them. I was expecting to court-martial me, because that was insubordination. I didn't think it was, but I knew they was going to find a way to do it, but they didn't.
Did that happen to a lot of soldiers in your unit?
No, not a lot, because there wasn't that many of us. You have about a few blacks. most of it was white. But he didn't. He said, you know, I thought about what you said, and it may be that we get off just when we can in them PT boats, just jump into them and get on the beach. I said, and he said, and all of us got our weapons, and we knew how to shoot the weapons and everything, but we were supposed to fight. We were supposed to supply for them. And so, just as I told him, I said, the Japanese don't know no color. The bullets just coming after you. And so when we got off the ship, that's what was happening. They were firing the bullets at everybody that was getting off. But see, if he had tried to discriminate and get the black and the white off separately, that would have been a lot of time for them to get all of us. So we got off, and we didn't lose anybody getting off. Didn't lose anybody. We got off and everything. And so they all went to them pillboxes when we got off the ship. And then, now the black are not supposed to fight anywhere. And it's not in the history anywhere that we did any fighting. It was only the white that was fighting. But when we got off on that beach there to invade that place, all of us was fighting. Everybody that had a weapon was fighting. And so that's what went on. And the only way that anybody would know that is that we had to tell them, because they didn't write it in the history, because we weren't supposed to be fighting. We were supposed to be supplying. And we got off and landed and everything, and we didn't lose anybody landing and all. And then we landed in a sweet potato patch. I remember they told us that don't eat those sweet potatoes. Those are big, nice, beautiful sweet potatoes, and we wanted to eat them. They told us not to eat them because the gardens was they used humans to grow the garden. That's why it was so. And so we didn't eat the potatoes, sweet potatoes. Sweet potato was better than some stuff that we were eating.
Probably just canned.
Yeah. So we came out of that pretty well and doing pretty good. But then after we got through with that, we didn't stay with the fighting unit anymore. They put us in a service unit, and the group, 33rd Division, I think it was, all white, did the fighting going up. I was there for a while in the occupation force in Japan, yeah. And, you know, the Japanese surrendered, but every once in a while we would have little spots over here, little spots over there that they would find new guns and whatnot, and they'd try to fight again. And so we'd put them down. Well, see, they didn't want to surrender, you know. They wanted to fight. And if they got a chance and they could get some ammunition and guns and whatnot, they would rise up. And we had to be always aware of that. And we had to put them down several times.
Did you lose troops during that time?
Was that?
Did you lose some troops?
No, we didn't.
Well, that was fortunate because we've heard a few stories about people who were in the occupation, and they talked about it being generally peaceful and accepted, but I have heard about other cases where it wasn't always the case.
Yeah, some places was worse than others.
How about the Japanese people, just in general? How did they accept you?
They didn't accept it well at all because they did not want to surrender. They wanted to fight because they believed if they died for their country that was the thing to do. That's what they all strive to do, to die for their country. So they didn't give up too easily. They would try to fool you, you know, pretend that they're doing nothing. Then all of a sudden they'll break up over there something they had. They didn't have nothing to fight with, but they were trying their best to get it. You know, they just wanted to, they figured if I die for my country, that's all that's necessary. And when you got somebody like that, you know, they don't mind dying. None of us wanted to die. I was a private when I made that comment telling the captain, you know, I said, that's not the way that I didn't think we should get off of this ship. And I thought that I would probably get court-martialed, and instead I got steady promoted. I went up to master sergeant.
Wow. Did that teach you needed to speak up later on?
Huh?
Did that teach you needed to speak up?
Well, you know, you were always taught that you didn't talk back to an officer, didn't say talk to the officer because we insubordination, they could handle you, you know. But I just thought there was time because we were going to all get slaughtered. And I just spoke up. And he said, I can't do anything for you because he was in another place, but he said, well, I'll make sure that everything will be all right for you. And I went straight to Master Sergeant, First Sergeant.
Amazing.
I would guess I was the youngest one there. I was still about 19 or 19 and a half, something like that, and I was Master Sergeant.
You weren't even old enough, supposedly, to fight.
That's right. So that was the one time I spoke up and it was all right. Because he said, I can't get you in the unit that I got, but I'll make sure that you get it. And sure enough, I got it.
As you went along.
Yeah.
Through the
Yeah, I went on up to the master first sergeant. That's what I was. First sergeant. I was in the units and not, you know, the master sergeant was more or less administration all the way, but I was first sergeant running the outfit, you know.
As you went along, did you get more and more respect?
Oh yeah, I got good respect. What I did, I made the best of what when I got to be a first sergeant, and I had quite a few. They were very careful not to give me any white soldiers at that time. But the black soldiers that I had, a lot of them was very smart. A lot of them was college graduates and all. And so wherever I could, I promoted them to do things that they could get for the grades, you know. It wasn't so much high they could get with getting grades because of what they were doing. But I did what I could, trying to get some of them, you know, what I thought they would do.
What kind of duties did you have once you became a sergeant? What were you tasked with?
Oh, I ran the outfit. We had a group, and the officer that I had for a long time was white, and he left the running of the company and everything to me. And see, they were all black. And then later on, once in New Guinea, was it New Guinea, Philippines? Once I had no, I in the occupation, I had a black officer in the occupation of Japan. I had a black officer in my company. He was my company commander. See, I don't know whether you know or not, but usually the first sergeant run the company. If something that was going on that he didn't like, he'd let me know and all, but he didn't do much. I was a troop seeker, because all our troops, that I had at that time were black. And I could communicate to the black much better than he could.
He must have had great respect for you.
He did. He did. He really did. He, a lot of things he wanted me to do that he couldn't do it because of the discrimination. But I lived through it. I mean, I knew that's what it was, and I lived through it. It's just the way it was. I was coming from Japan, from the, getting discharged. Went into Washington, Fort Lewis, Washington. That's where we got off. And they had a big steak dinner and everything waiting for us. We got off and went to the mess hall. We had this steak, oh man. And we were all so happy that we were getting a steak dinner and all. And then we didn't stay at Fort Lewis long. They put us on a troop train, and they sent us to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And by the time we got to Fort Bragg, we had lost half of the troops. We couldn't keep them. They just got off. They didn't. We couldn't keep them. They'd get off somewhere and go about their business. They didn't go down to Fort Bragg to get officially discharged. And we tried to keep them, and we couldn't. What could we do with them? They get off and go in town somewhere and get drunk and everything, and they wouldn't come back. So, some of us, I was one that was in charge at least. All of us went on to Fort Bragg. So I get to Fort Bragg, and I'm getting ready to get out the service and all, and I was glad to get home. I had been able to get in touch with my mother and father, and tell them that I was on my way home. And see, when I came from Japan on the ship, we had worked up to private rooms. They gave us private rooms when we came back. Two military non-com would have a room, big room, he wasn't with the rest of the troops. So that's the way we came home from Japan. And so, so I enjoyed that. That's fun. So I got to Fort Bragg, and I was going through all of the, I know how you get discharged and doing all that. And I had a lot of stuff that I was able to bring with me, and I had to go up to the little town and get me another bag so I could carry all my stuff home. So I get all discharged and everything, and I go to the bus, because I had to go to a place called South Hill, Virginia. That's where I would get folks would meet me at the bus station. So I got in the bus. And the seat was right there in the front. I sat down right where, like as soon as I got in, I sat down. So this guy, the driver, got up and came over to me and said, "You can't sit there. You have to sit in the back." I said, "What the hell are you talking about? I just came from Japan fighting for you. And you going to tell me I'm going to go to the back of the bus and these seats up here?" I said, "I'm not going to move anywhere." I said, "Call anybody you want. Call the whole city. Get all of them in here if you want, because I am not moving." And so all the people that were sitting in the bus, they clapped. And he went back, sat down, and drove the bus on where we were supposed to. He didn't say nothing else to me. But I did tell him something, but I can't tell you what I told him.
But he deserved it.
Yeah, and he got it too. That was the greatest experience. I'd been in the military all that time, and I was waiting for that day. Well, I went back into the environment. Everybody was glad to see me, and they everybody treated me very well. You know, my family was most of all glad to see me and all, because I went away to the fight very, very young overseas. They just couldn't believe that they were sending me overseas that young and that old just as soon as I got out of basic training. So it was good. But they fight for equal rights and everything. That just begun to start, all of this. In fact, just like high school, they had no high school for us. We had to go to a boarding high school. It was a Episcopalian school, high school. So they didn't require me to go back to finish that semester. They told me that I could go ahead and apply for college. And I was getting out. I was glad I was there when they integrated. My time was up. It was a year. I had a year because I was in the reserve. And when I went in, they said, "You were going to serve a year." My year was almost up, but I was there when they integrated. I had my first sergeant rating, and then I went back in. I had master sergeant. I was first sergeant, and I was first sergeant of a all-black unit. President Truman didn't do it until I was in the Army, back his second time, and I was at Fort Hood, Texas, when he said, "I want the military integrated tomorrow morning." And the powers to be, all of the company commanders, which was just all white, he said, "Well, if you don't know how to do it, I'll come and show you how to do it." They found a way to do it. Oh, it was something else. And it was done so suddenly. See, what they wanted to do, they wanted to integrate it gradually. And Truman said, "No, today." And that's what they did. When the president said do something, you do it. He told them, "You go over there." I had got out of the infantry. I got out of the infantry because I was tired of walking around. I got a chance to get out of the infantry. I got in the artillery so I could ride some. And so he said, "You take," we had about 150, sometime more 200 men in the battery. I was in artillery then. And he told her, "Take half of those white and put them in the black unit, and take the half of the black and put them in the white unit." That's the way they integrated, just like that. That's the way they did it. So I was B battery. I think I had about 150 men. And so they came and took half of my men, took them over to the white unit, and they brought half of the white unit over to my unit. Just dumped them in there. And so all of these white guys said, "Listen, you're going to be my first sergeant?" I said, "Yeah, you see these 6 stripes and the diamond that I got on my arm?" I said, "It means the same thing as it means on a white soldier's arm." I said, "You are going to do what I say do, and if you don't, you're going to wish you had on it." I told him just like that. So I didn't have no more trouble with him. And so because they said that I wasn't going to take this stuff out. I had the authority, and I had the president in back of me, and they were going to do what I said do. So that's the way it went. I was right there doing it, in it.
Did those white soldiers integrate well with the black soldiers?
Some of them, the ones from the Deep South, had problems. They couldn't imagine a black man being over them. But I assured them that the stripes meant the same thing, and you better do what I say do. And they learned that real quick. Some of the people had a real hard time accepting that they had a black first sergeant and they had to obey him. But they knew that the laws was me, and they didn't get me in trouble. They did what I said, you know. They didn't try. They weren't dumb. They knew. If they didn't do, they knew where they were going. They're going to the stockade.
The military was a great place to begin integration.
Yes. For that particular integration. And so, yeah. And it was different for me too. I had all black soldiers. And I hadn't had any white soldiers, but I adapted very well. I said, a soldier is a soldier. I don't care what color he is. And to tell you the truth, those white soldiers that I had, they were crazy about me. They did. They really enjoyed being with me. Because they found out that I knew what I was doing, and they found out I was fair. I didn't care what color you were. If you messed up, and you had to pay for it.
Was there any other part of society at that time that gave opportunities for black people to advance other than the military? Was the military the best place to be for that?
Oh, yeah, there was quite a few blacks advancing in many different places, but it was very few different places throughout the United States. There were ones that were educated and had the know-how. They were advancing very, very slowly and very few. But I got my due when I went back into the service. I went back to the Korean War.
Really?
Mm-hmm. When the Korean War broke out, I was in the reserve. I got in the reserve, but when I got in the reserve, I didn't draw any money because I didn't join any unit. Wasn't any unit nowhere near where I was. And so therefore, I didn't join any unit. I didn't train any, so I didn't get any money. So I was just out there, a reserve enlisted man, and I got no training or nothing. And when the Korean War broke out, they sent me a telegram that to report to Fort Eustis, Virginia, and be prepared to stay 2 or 3 days because I would get my physical on. They wanted to find out how many people they had available in case they needed them. They wanted to get the physical, so we say we got this number of men ready. If we need them, we can call them. And say, you just going back and do what you were doing and whatnot. I was in school and working and carrying on, and so by the time I got back home, I had a telegram at home when I got back telling me where to put it. He said to me, we find that we need you now, and you go to the nearest train station and take a train and pay your way to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And you're going to get 21-day refresher course, and you're going to Korea. That's what they told me. That was what was in the telegram. Now, do you think that a young man, to these young people today, if they tell them and didn't give them no money to go with, did you think they would go? No, they wouldn't go. I went. All of us went. And then they reimbursed us after we got there. And when we got there, they said, what are y'all doing coming here? I said, this is where they sent us. We ain't know nothing about you all coming. We don't have no uniforms for you. And I said, That's not my problem. I said, they told me where to come to and told me we were good 21-day refresher course and we're going to Korea. And he said, we ain't got no clothing for you all. I said, well, whose fault is that? You go talk to somebody else. Somebody supposed to told you that we were coming. So I had on, all of us had on our civilian clothes. And see, I had been in the army and I knew, and they tried to get me to soldier. I said, no, I'm not going to do any so. I'm not going to soldier in no civilian. I said, you're supposed to give me some outfit. I'm going to wait till you get me some clothes, military clothes, before I do any training. And he knew I was right, and he said no more to me. And then some of them went on with it. I don't want to train in the civilian clothes. I'm going to wait till you get me some clothes, because you're supposed to have them here. So it wasn't long before they had the uniforms, and we started training, and I trained and all. Well, see, at that time now, the military was not integrated, but you know, when we came in from reserve, black and white, we were together. We trained up there in Kentucky together. We trained together that little bit. Black and white was together. And you know, you don't hear nothing about that.
Did you actually go to Korea?
No, I tell you, I can tell you how this happened now. I had my refresher course. I was all dressed in my fighting gear, helmet, all my backpack and all, getting on a train to go to Camp Stoneman, California, to go to Korea. And I saw this Jeep coming across the field. I said, oh, let's see, if I got somebody's records and they're going to catch them before the train pull off. And guess what they did? They came and they called two names out and said, they want you all in Fort Hood, Texas. Yours cadre. I want your MIS there. Myself and another fellow. And the other fellow that they pulled off was white. And I was black. And we went to Fort Hood, and the others went on to Korea. So I was lucky there. So I spent my whole year down there at Fort Hood, Texas, training people and sending them overseas. All the colleges and everything, all the state schools and everything was still, no blacks was in them. We went up to the predominant black colleges, because there was no, but now in Washington, D.C., all of the universities there were integrated. All you had to do was pay your money and you went, you didn't care what color you were. But we couldn't go to no state schools. No state schools open to us. Colleges, no. Even though we were paying taxes. My wife, she had graduated, she was teaching school, so she wanted to get a master's. So University of Virginia and all the universities around there were offering a master's degree in education. But you know what? They wouldn't let her in. You know what they did? They paid her tuition for her to go to New York City and go to the state university there, rather than let her in the state school there in Virginia. Then they didn't let her in, but they paid her tuition and go all to New York. And she got her master's at New York University.
That's an incredible situation.
It's true. That's not no lie. That's the way it was.
Where did you end up going to college?
I went to American University and George Washington University, but I was working at the time. I had gotten my undergrad degree in mathematics from predominantly black college, but I wanted to be earthquake specialist.
Which college was that? The black college?
St. Paul College. St. Paul College in Lawrenceville, Virginia. It was a Episcopalian school too. Both of us went to predominantly black colleges, got our undergrad degree, but the black schools only can offer so much because I wanted to be an earthquake specialist, and people say, "What in the world you want to get into earthquakes for? You know you're not gonna get any job." I said, "You watch me. I'm gonna get a job. If it's any out there, I'm gonna get one."
Why did you have the interest in earthquakes?
I don't know. I just had earthquake. I don't know why. I don't know why. Everybody, all my friends were the same way. What the heck are you trying to get in earthquakes for? I said, because that's what I want. You ain't gonna get no job doing that. I said, but I do. So when we went to Washington, I had gone to work then, and so I enrolled in the evenings classes in school. They didn't care what color you were as long as you had the money. You just pay the money, you go. And so I didn't get no government. I didn't get no money from the government to go. I paid my own way. And so that's where I got my qualifications and everything to become a citizen. So I was there in Washington at the time, and I had gotten me a job as a technician because I had enough education. I got a technician, and so I was working, and I was going to school, taking a lot of the other sciences and whatnot, because I wanted to be an earthquake specialist. And I went there. So I was the only black one in the class, and so that professor, all the time, everywhere I went, I was on a black one. They picked on me. They always called on me. I had to be prepared for everything because they could call on me. Because he could pick me out, you know. You're only one in there, and so they picked you out. So I stayed on my P's and Q's. I said, well, that's good. That'll make me work harder. So I was working for the Department of Commerce, and my office is at 14th and Constitution Avenue, Washington, D.C. And it went on, I was technician, and the Alaskan earthquake occurred in 1964. And they had the it was 8 point something, and the earthquake and tsunami. And I had gotten a job with the group in Commerce Department in earthquake. I got a job as a technician, and so that's what I was working as. So they had me changing the records, and we had blue ink in the little tray that write the record, and it wasn't like it is now. And was having so many aftershocks. The aftershock was throwing that pen like this, and I get all inked up changing the records because we kept having aftershocks and all. So I went down, that was the weekend, and I went down to the car. I was living in Northeast Washington then, so I went down to change the records. And so when I got down there, I don't know whether you've been in the Commerce lobby or not, but the Commerce lobby was the public place. They had a cafeteria that anybody off the street could walk in and eat. They had an aquarium. They had a bookstore in there. So always was a lot of people in the lobby. That's why we had a little seismograph station with pen and ink down. When we were in the building, So we keep that going. And so when an earthquake occurs, people come down that knew anything about it could see the earthquake being recorded if they happen to be there when one comes. And we had pen and ink then. We didn't have anything else. But the Alaskan earthquake, 1964, Good Friday, occurred. It was a 9 point something. We put it out at 8, but then we went back and recomputed it afterwards and we found out it was bigger than that. It was a 9. And so I go there and change the record. I'm trying to get it and change the record, and ink all over me, and everybody was saying, we want somebody to tell us about what's going on with this Alaskan earthquakes. All this stuff going on, and they're talking about a tsunami and all that, and we don't know what they're talking about. I said, well, there's nobody here but me and my boss. My boss is upstairs, and I'll have to go up there and tell him to come down here and talk to you all. I go up there, I change the record and everything, full of blue ink, because they have to get up close enough to change things. And earthquakes do occur, and throwing ink everywhere. And so I got to change. I went up and told my boss, I said, that lobby is full of people, it's packed. And they want somebody to come down there and talk to them about this earthquake, tell them what's happening, what's expected, and talk about the tsunami and all that kind of stuff. And I told them that I was not the one to do that. I was just a technician. I'm not a professional. I'm a technician. And you're the boss. You're the professional. You got to go down there and talk to them. I told him just like that. He looked at me. Well, I kept getting these instruments ready to go in the field so that they can record aftershocks up in Alaska. And I ain't got time. I said, well, you tell me what you're going to do. All them people down there, and you're going to hear from them if you don't tell them what's going on with the earthquake. That's your job. I said, you're professional. You're supposed to talk to them people. I told him just like that. He was my boss. I told him. He said, I'm not good at talking to people. I said, well, you do the best you can. I never will forget that. And I said, well, all of them down there, you can go down and take a look if you want to, because that lobby, that was a big lobby and it was packed. Media and everybody was down there in that lobby. And they want to know all about it. But I knew all about the earthquake because I paid attention to it. Even though I was just a technician, I paid attention to everything. I knew exactly what was going on, everything that had happened and what we expected to happen. I had all of that kind of stuff. I knew it because I observed very closely. Every time we have an earthquake, I would observe and find out what's going on. You know, practical work. So he said, you know, I don't do very well with the public. I could tell them what's going on, but I'm nervous. I'm just not a public speaker. I looked at him. I said, well, what you gonna do then? He said, you go down there and talk to him. I said, I'm just a technician. I'm not a professional. I said, you go down there and talk to him. I said, I can do it, all right. I know all of what's going on. I can do it, and I'm not afraid of the people. He said, well, you go down there and talk to him then. So I went down there to the lobby, and I told him I said, well, I'm going to give you a rundown on what has happened and what is going on now. And so I started, and I talked to those people for about, I guess, 2 hours, telling them about the tsunami and the earthquake and everything and all. And so the media didn't want to leave then. The media wanted to continue to talk. I said, well, I got to go do something else now. I said, I got to quit now. I got to go. I got to go do something else. But I was tired of talking. But see, my boss was afraid of a large crowd. That's what his problem was. He couldn't talk to a large crowd because, some people just cannot talk to a large crowd of people. And it didn't matter to me. I didn't care who it was, didn't care how many it was. I could talk to them. So I satisfied them and everything. So I told him, I said, now that I have come down here, I told him just like this. I said, now I have come down here and I have done your job. I want a promotion. I want to become a professional because I'm qualified. And he said, well, I'll see that get done. I said, well, I'm going to see to it. That's when I got promoted to a professional. That's how I got to be a professional geophysicist. When I told him all about that earthquake and was right on, the federal government decided that they wanted to put all the earthquake people together, and they had a splinter of people in Boulder, Colorado, that was in researching earthquakes in there. So they sent us out to Boulder. The whole outfit from Rockville, Virginia, they sent us out to Colorado. And Colorado didn't have nowhere to put us. We got there. The people that was there was on the East Campus. They had space in the university, but they didn't have a space for us. So they put us in the old, it was when the hippies and all was raving then, and they set the bank on fire, burned it down. And so they fixed up that burn out bank bill and put us in that.
I've often wondered why the government's offices for studying seismic activity and earthquakes is in Boulder, which doesn't have a lot of seismic activity.
Well, you look at it this way. Why don't you want to put all the earthquake people in California and all of them could fall into the ocean?
There's a certain logic to that.
Sure is.
So that's the way I looked at it. Because I don't want to go to California anyway.
If any place is safe from earthquakes, it's probably Colorado.
I was chief, when I retired, I was the chief of the National Earthquake Information Service down in Golden, Colorado, with the building on Colorado School of Mines, and it's still there. But I was chief of the whole thing. But I wasn't supposed to do nothing. I told him, I said, I'm going to do all right. The way it worked out, when I got my job down at where the earthquake center is now, for the center is now, and we had plenty of room and everything, and we got on the map, and our center was real recognized throughout the world. And I hit obstacles there too, because they felt that I was black, and why was I in such a position as I was? And I never paid attention to them. I just did my job. I was never, from a kid, I was never afraid of talking to anybody. And that always carried over with me. See, in the media, if you're dealing with the media, the first thing you gotta do, you gotta be able to keep your composure and be able to tell them what you know. Because some people, they get so worked up, they can't tell them what they know. They just can't face people. And I could face anybody. I didn't care who it was. I'd face them. Didn't matter. I said, I don't care if the president is there. It doesn't make any difference. I'm going to say the same thing. I'm going to say it the same way. And some people just can't and couldn't face a group of people. And see, you can't deal with the media unless you can deal with a group of people. And when the media wanted to talk to somebody that wasn't afraid to face the media and to tell them the way it was, they would want to talk to me. And so some of them couldn't understand who they wanted to talk with. So they would tell me, we want that black fellow. You know who he is? And they would wait for me. And that didn't go too well. You know, the thing of it was, most people, I don't care, white or black, they're afraid of the media. I never was afraid of the media. I would tell them the truth, and I could tell it to them in a way so that it wouldn't frighten them to death. See, most people like to frighten people. And I said, this is just the beginning. The big one is coming. We're going to have these big aftershocks. We're going to have all of this and all of that all the time. And I would never do that. I would say, there's a possibility we could have some aftershocks. I say sometimes the aftershocks are stronger than the main shock. But nobody knows what is going to happen. But what I usually do, as soon as we have an earthquake somewhere, I go look at the history of what happened at that earthquake. How did the aftershocks go? How large was it and everything? And usually follow that pattern. That's why I could use just to be right with it. I wasn't predicting anything, but I knew what the pattern had been, and usually I was right. So I came up fine. I never thought that I was one that knew it all. With earthquakes, you don't. And I let it be known that I didn't know what may happen. I can say this happened the last time they had a big one there, but I can't guarantee you that this is what's going to happen. This time I tell them, I said, this area, last time we had a big earthquake here, we had a lot of aftershocks, but none of them was very large. I said, now the next time we get them, it may be different. You just can't tell. But see, some people figure they know it all, and they go saying this was just small, and the big one has come in, and all that stuff scared the people to death. I never would do that. I'd tell them what had happened in the area, and some places they had happened before, and I can know what the history was. I just say there's a possibility that it can have some strong aftershock. We don't know that, but if it follows patterns that many other earthquakes follow, they can have some strong aftershock. That's the way I would always put it to them, and then people wouldn't panic. You can go telling people, oh, this is just the beginning. You got the big one coming. You don't know what you're talking about. So one time, when they had the big earthquake in I think it was, they lived somewhere over there, and some scientist, he called himself a scientist, know-it-all, he went on television there and told all the people that earthquake that they had was just the beginning, and the big one would be in a few days, and scared everybody to death. That people just went crazy. So the guy who was in charge there, he asked me would I speak to the group. I said, I don't speak your language. And he said, you don't have to worry about that. You say it, and then I'll translate it. But I don't know whether you ever done that or not, but that's hard. You get a thought, and you say it, then you wait for him to say it to his people, and then you keep going like that. But I learned to do it because I did that a lot because they wanted me to quiet the people down, just tell them the truth and tell them what I knew. And I always would tell them that there is a possibility there could be a big one, bigger than the main shock they've had, but they don't know. I would just tell them right off the bat they don't know. But they wanted to say that they knew. They don't know. And they don't know today. And so they believed in me because I told them the truth. But I told them in a way that it didn't frighten them. That's the way I did when I was interviewed with any other foreigners or anywhere, that's the way I would interview. We don't know. We don't know how big the earthquake is. There's a possibility. There's a history of some. I mean, we may have some, but we don't know that.
Do people watch disaster movies, things from Hollywood, things on TV, and then expect the disaster to be like that? And how do you-
Yeah, a lot of times. You know, some of these movies that they watch, you know, a lot of people watch those, and they expect the earthquakes that really happen will follow like that, but they don't realize that that's a movie. And then they have some live movies of earthquakes, which they were able to get. Those are good ones, but all of the other stuff, they don't know. And right today, they cannot. And I told them this way back there, because I worked for the government a long time, and I told them, I said, you are not going to be able to predict or forecast earthquakes the way you think you go, or I said, because it's only one man that controls that, and he's above you. You can't control it, and they're not predicting yet. And the federal government don't spend any more money trying to predict earthquakes. Did you know that? They stopped appropriating money for all the universities and colleges all around the whole world got money from the government to work on prediction of earthquakes. And they finally got wise and stopped. They don't get no more because they couldn't come up with it. I told them that. I told them, I said, you can't predict it. I said, too many variables, and you're not going to pull them together. And so far, I'm right. That's what I wanted to do, and that's what I did. That's what I enjoyed. That's why I worked as long as I did, because I enjoy working. I really, truly enjoy working because I loved that field, and I did everything I could to get everything I could because I really loved it, and I still love it. So that's the way it was.
Did your parents live to see your success?
They did not. Both of my parents died very young, and they didn't live to see any of this. Nothing but my sisters and brothers. My mother and father died before. I wish so many times that they had lived to see some of the things that I had accomplished, but they didn't. Yeah, so, I and everybody, all my friends said, man, are you crazy? What in the world are you talking about going in some earthquake fever? You know you're not going to get any job in there. I said, watch me. I went to the top. I wasn't afraid of anything. I
We
guess.
could tell. How did your experience being in the military in World War II and then in Korea, how did that affect how you approached the rest of your life?
Well, I found out that there was a lot of things out there to do, and I felt that I could be a part of them. And so from then on, I undertook whatever I wanted to, and I feel that I would be successful with it, and that's what I did with the earthquake thing. Because I know you had to work hard for anything you get, and I was willing to do that, and I got my due. That's how it worked out. I tell everybody, I said, everywhere I went, I was a pioneer. Everywhere I went, I hit discrimination, but I handled it.